The ship shook violently. 16-year-old Juri grabbed the edge of her bed to stop from falling. Red warning lights flashed through the small cabin of the diplomatic vessel. All personnel to escape pods, a mechanical voice announced. Hostile forces have breached the main hull. Juri's heart raced. Just yesterday, her parents had told her this trip to Trescia would be boring. Just another diplomatic mission. Her father had been wrong. She pulled on her boots and rushed to the door. In the hallway, people ran in panic. No one noticed the teenage girl pressed against the wall. "Mom. Dad?" She called out. Her voice was lost in the noise. A blast rocked the ship again. Smoke filled the corridor. Through the haze, Juri saw tall figures moving with purpose. They were not human. The Tressians had boarded. The aliens stood over 7 feet tall, with smooth blue-gray skin and 4 arms. They moved with military precision, shooting any human who resisted. Juri ducked into a supply closet. Through a small crack in the door, she watched in horror as a Tressian officer stopped her father in the hallway. "Ambassador Kim," the alien said with a voice like grinding stones. "Your presence is requested by Emperor Kalvor." Her father stood tall despite being dwarfed by the alien. "This is an act of war against Earth. We came in peace. Peace is for equals." The Tressian replied, "Humans are not our equals." A flash of light. Her father fell. Juri covered her mouth to stop from screaming. Minutes later, when she dared to look again, she saw her mother being dragged away, unconscious but alive. Juri wanted to run to her, but survival instinct kept her hidden. The ship jolted as it was pulled into a larger vessel. Juri remained hidden for hours until hunger forced her to move. She crept through the abandoned corridors of the diplomatic ship, now docked inside a massive Tressian cruiser. At the airlock, she was caught. A Tressian soldier grabbed her with its lower arms. "A young one," it said to another. "Take it with the other captives." Juri was thrown into a holding cell with 30 other humans, the survivors of the diplomatic mission. Her mother was not among them. A tech specialist named Taiho told her what happened. "They killed most of the senior staff," he whispered. "They're keeping us alive as laborers or bargaining chips." "My mother?" Juri asked. Taiho lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry. Only your father's personal staff survived." 3 days later, they arrived at Trescia. The captives were marched from the ship into the blinding light of an alien world. Twin suns beat down on a city of towering crystal spires. In another time, Juri might have found it beautiful. An official separated the prisoners. Those with technical skills went one way. The rest, including Juri, went another. "You will serve in the Imperial Palace," a translator told them. "Disobedience means death." Juri was given a gray uniform and assigned to the kitchen. The head cook, a 6-armed being named Grak, showed no kindness, but no cruelty either. "You serve food. You clean dishes. You keep quiet," Grak said in broken human language. That night, in a small room shared with 5 other servants of different species, Juri curled up on her thin mattress and finally let herself cry. Her parents were gone. Earth was millions of miles away. She was alone on an alien world that saw humans as little more than animals. But as her tears dried, something hardened inside her. She would survive. She would watch. She would learn. And someday, she would make them pay. For now, though, she was just a servant girl. Invisible. Unimportant. And that would be her greatest strength. 2 years passed. Juri was now 18. Her hands had grown tough from work. Her eyes had grown sharp from watching. Every day, she served food to the Tressian nobles. They never looked at her. To them, she was nothing, just another servant among many. They spoke freely around her, as if she could not understand. But Juri understood more than they knew. Their language had become clear to her. Their customs made sense. Their weaknesses were obvious. One hot afternoon, Juri carried water to the main courtyard. A crowd had gathered. Guards pushed everyone into a circle around a wooden platform. "Come," Grak told her. "All must watch." On the platform stood a Tretian male. His skin was paler blue than others. His four hands were tied behind his back. A tall official read from a glowing tablet. "Jexval, you are guilty of speaking against Emperor Kal Vor. You shared secret information with enemies. The punishment is death." The crowd was silent. Jewry watched as two guards raised energy weapons. The prisoner looked out at the crowd with no fear in his eyes. "The Emperor is a tyrant," he shouted. "He experiments on lesser species. He." The weapons fired. The Tretian fell. The crowd remained silent. "This is what happens to traitors," the official said. "Return to your duties." That night, Jewry could not sleep. The dead Tretian's words echoed in her mind. Experiments on lesser species. Humans were considered a lesser species. The next morning, she took a different path to the kitchen, one that passed the technology section. As she walked, she saw Taiho, the human technician captured with her 2 years ago. He was fixing the communication panel. "Taiho," she whispered. He turned, surprised. "Jewry, you're alive. Meet me tonight, behind the water filtration unit." After her kitchen shift ended, Jewry went to the meeting place. She waited an hour before Taiho appeared. "I can't stay long," he said. "What do you want?" "Information," Jewry replied. "Yesterday, they executed a Tretian who mentioned experiments on lesser species. Do you know anything?" Taiho's face darkened. "Yes. I fix equipment in the science wing sometimes. They take people, humans, Kaldar, Vorel, anyone they consider beneath them. I don't know what happens after. Could you get me access to the science wing?" "Why? What can you do?" Jewry looked him in the eyes. "I don't know yet, but I need to see." 3 days later, Taiho gave her a small plastic card. "This will open the service doors. Be careful. If they catch you." "They won't," she said. That night, Jewry used the card to enter the science wing. The halls were empty and cold. She moved silently, the way she had learned to move when serving nobles who hated noise. Through a glass wall, she saw rows of cells. Inside each one was a different alien species. Some she recognized from the palace, others she had never seen before. A Tretian scientist walked between the cells, making notes. On a large screen behind him was a human DNA strand, glowing blue in the darkness. Jewry moved closer to see. Her foot hit something metal. The sound echoed. The scientist turned. "Who's there?" She ducked behind a large machine. As she pressed against it, her hand felt something small and hard. A datapad, forgotten by someone. The scientist walked past her hiding spot. When he turned a corner, Jewry grabbed the datapad and ran. Back in her small room, with others sleeping around her, she examined her prize. The datapad was unlocked. It contained files, schedules, security codes. Jewry's hands trembled as she scrolled through the information. This was dangerous. This was power. For the first time in 2 years, she smiled. The fall of the Tretian Empire had begun, though no one knew it yet. For 6 months, Jewry worked in secret. Every night, she studied the datapad and recorded what she learned. The Tretian Empire controlled 12 planets. They tested weapons on captive species. They planned to attack 3 more worlds soon. Taiho helped when he could. He taught her how to hide her tracks on the datapad. He brought her small pieces of technology. Together, they built a secure communication device from kitchen scraps and stolen parts. "We need to find others," Jewry said one night, as they met in their hiding spot. "We can't fight the Empire alone." "There are rumors," Taiho replied. "Some say there's a group that helps people escape. They call themselves the Broken Chains. How do we find them?" "We don't. They find us." 2 weeks later, while cleaning a noble's quarters, Jewry found a small symbol scratched under a table. 3 links of a chain, broken in the middle. The same symbol Tai-Ho had described. She scratched a single line next to it and left. The next day, the line had been crossed with another. A message. She returned that night, pretending to do extra cleaning. A Vorel servant, a furry, four-eyed creature, was waiting. "You marked the symbol," the Vorel said in a low voice. "Yes," Juri answered. "I want to join." "Why should we trust a human?" Juri handed over her datapad. "Because I have this." The Vorel's four eyes widened as he scrolled through the information. "Come with me. Now." Juri followed him through service tunnels she didn't know existed. They went deep under the palace, to a room filled with beings of different species. Humans, Vorel, Kaldar, even a few Treshans. A tall Kaldar female stepped forward. Her silver scales gleamed in the dim light. "I am Nez," she said, "leader of Broken Chains." "Who are you?" "Juri. I worked in the palace kitchen for 2 years. And now you want to fight," Nez said. "Why?" "The Treshans killed my parents. They experiment on my people. They think we're animals." Nez studied her. "Many have reason to hate. Few have courage to act. Fewer still have useful information." She held up the datapad. "This is valuable." Over the next few months, Juri became part of the resistance. She continued her work in the palace, eyes always watching, ears always listening. At night, she met with the Broken Chains, sharing what she learned. They never used her name. To them, she was simply the human. Her identity stayed secret for safety. The resistance grew stronger. Small acts of sabotage began. Food shipments to military bases went missing. Communication systems failed at key moments. Prisoners sometimes disappeared from their cells. One morning, Juri served breakfast to a group of high-ranking officials. They looked worried. "The Emperor is furious," one said. "Another weapon shipment vanished." "It's those rebels," another replied. "They're getting bolder." "How do they know our schedules? Our routes? There must be a spy." Juri kept her face blank as she poured their drinks. That afternoon, palace security increased. Guards checked every servant. Rooms were searched. Everyone was questioned. When guards reached the kitchen, Grak stepped forward. "My staff loyal," he insisted. "We serve food, clean dishes, nothing more." The head guard looked at each kitchen worker. His eyes passed over Juri without stopping. She was just another servant. That night, she met with Nez in the underground room. "Security is tighter," Juri reported. "They suspect a spy." "You must be more careful," Nez said. "You're too valuable to lose." "I'm ready to do more," Juri insisted. "I want to help plan our next move." Nez nodded slowly. "Then it's time you met our new ally, someone with power beyond this planet." She led Juri deeper into the tunnel system. In a small room lit by blue lights sat a communication device unlike any Juri had seen. "We made contact with others fighting the Empire," Nez explained, "including your people." On the screen appeared the face of a human woman in a military uniform. "Juri," Nez said, "meet Captain G1 of the Human Defense Force. You're alive." Captain Ji1's eyes widened on the screen. "The daughter of Ambassador Kim. We thought all diplomats died." "Almost all," Juri said. "I survived because I was young. Not important enough to kill." "Their mistake," Ji1 replied. "Now tell me everything you know." For an hour, Juri explained what she had learned about the Treshan Empire. The Human Defense Force had been watching the Treshans for years, but had never gained such detailed information. "We need proof of these experiments," Ji1 said. "If we show other star systems what the Treshans are doing, we could build a coalition against them." "I can't get into the secure labs," Juri said. "I can." Tai-Ho spoke up. "But I need help with the security systems." They made a plan. Tai-Ho would enter the labs during his next repair job. Juri would create a distraction. Nez's people would provide backup. 3 days later, they put the plan into action. Juri was cleaning a hallway near the science wing when she accidentally dropped a cart of cleaning supplies. The loud crash drew several guards away from their posts. Taiho slipped into the lab. Using tricks he had learned from the Resistance, he bypassed the security on the main computer. He downloaded files, took pictures, and planted a small device that would allow them to access the system remotely. Within 15 minutes, he was out. The guards never noticed. That night, they transmitted the evidence to Captain G1. The files showed hundreds of test subjects, medical experiments, weapon tests, genetic modifications. "This is worse than we thought," Ji-1 said. "The Tresians aren't just conquering planets. They're trying to create biological weapons specific to each species. What can we do?" Juri asked. "We broadcast this evidence to every planet in this sector, but we need access to the main communication array in the palace. This would be their most dangerous mission yet. The palace's communication array was heavily guarded. It sent messages across the Empire and to other star systems." Juri found their opportunity during her kitchen work. "The Emperor is hosting a feast for military leaders next week. All top officials will be there." "Perfect," Nez said. "Security will focus on the feast hall." They spent days planning. Each person had a role. Juri would serve at the feast, watching for any change in plans. Taiho would access the communication system. 3 Broken Chains members would create diversions around the palace. The night of the feast arrived. Juri stood against the wall, holding a pitcher of Tresian wine. Emperor Kalvor sat at the head of the table, his blue skin darker and more patterned than the others. His forearms gleamed with jeweled bands. "Our dominance grows," he announced to his generals. "Soon we add 3 more planets to our empire." Juri kept her face blank, but her heart raced. These were the planets from the datapad files. The attack was coming soon. As the Emperor spoke, Juri saw Taiho's signal, a small red light blinking from her stolen communicator. He had reached the array room. Now she needed to ensure no one left the feast for the next 20 minutes. She stepped forward, pretending to trip. The wine pitcher flew from her hands, splashing across 2 generals. "Foolish creature," one shouted. Guards rushed toward her. The room's attention focused on the commotion. No one noticed the palace lights flicker as Taiho connected Captain J1's transmission to the main array. Across the Empire, on every Tresian-controlled planet, communication systems began broadcasting the evidence of Tresian experiments. Videos, documents, scientific records, all showing the true horror of the regime. Juri took her punishment for spilling wine, 10 lashes with a pain rod. But as she gritted her teeth against the pain, she smiled inside. The truth was out. The Resistance had allies, and the Tresian Empire had just shown its true face to the galaxy. 3 months passed. The broadcast changed everything. Planets across the Empire erupted in protests. The Tresian military struggled to maintain control. Juri, now 20, moved through the palace with new purpose. Her role had changed. No longer just a spy, she now coordinated between resistance cells on 3 planets. Emperor Kalvor was angry. His generals were worried. Juri heard their fears as she served their meals. "Who is leading these rebels?" the Emperor demanded during an emergency meeting. "Find them and crush them." "We believe they call their leader the Human," a general said. The Emperor smashed his cup. "A human? Impossible. No human could threaten us." Juri kept her face calm as she cleaned the broken glass. That night, she met with the Broken Chains leaders and Captain G1, who had secretly landed on Tresia 2 weeks earlier. "My ship is in orbit, disguised as a cargo vessel," Ji-1 said. 5 more human Defense Force ships wait at the edge of this system. "We're ready." "The people are ready too," Nez added. "We have supporters in every major city on 3 planets." "Then it's time," Juri said. "We start tomorrow." The plan was simple but dangerous. While the Emperor held his war council, rebellions would begin on 3 planets at once. At the same moment, They would capture key leaders in the palace. The next morning, Jurai entered the palace kitchen for what might be the last time. Grak looked at her strangely. "You different now," he said. "Not scared anymore." Juri smiled. "No, not scared." Grak nodded slowly. "Good. I'm not scared either." He pulled up his sleeve to reveal a small tattoo, 3 broken chain links. Juri's eyes widened. "You're with us." "Many of us are. We wait for signal." That afternoon, as the War Council gathered, Juri gave the signal. A small red light on her communicator flashed 3 times. Across 3 planets, people took to the streets. In the palace, servants and guards who supported the resistance suddenly turned on their masters. Jurai ran to the council chamber. Inside, Emperor Kalvor and his 12 generals found themselves surrounded by their own guards. Nez stepped forward, weapon raised. "Your rule ends today," she said. The emperor stood, his 4 hands reaching for weapons that weren't there. "Who dares?" Juri walked into the room. She no longer wore servant clothes. Captain Jadwan had given her a human defense force uniform. "I dare," she said. "The human you've been looking for." The emperor's eyes narrowed. "You? A kitchen girl?" "I was Ambassador Kim's daughter before I was a kitchen girl," Juri replied. "And now I am your downfall." As they spoke, Captain Ji-won's team took control of the palace communication center. They cut off all military channels. The Trescian fleet received no orders. Confusion spread through their ranks. The emperor was locked in his own prison. His generals joined him. For the first time in 200 years, the palace stood without a Trescian leader. Juri walked to the emperor's balcony. Below, thousands gathered in the main square. Some fought, but many Trescian citizens simply watched, unsure what to do. She stepped to the edge. The crowd saw her, a small human figure in the place where only emperors had stood before. "People of Trescia," her voice echoed across the square through the palace speakers. "The emperor is no longer in power. His crimes against all species, including his own, have ended." A silence fell across the square. Then a cheer began, growing louder as it spread. Many Trescians had suffered under their emperor too, but not all were happy. In the distance, alarms sounded. The palace sensors detected ships approaching. "Admiral Fax's fleet returns," Nez warned. "They'll try to take back the palace." Juri nodded. The victory was only beginning. The real fight was still to come. "We need to leave now," Captain Jaiwon said, checking her scanner. "Admiral Fax has 10 warships. We can't hold the palace." Juri nodded. She had known this moment might come. Taking the palace was only the first step. They still needed to win the war. "Take all the data from the palace computers," she ordered, "and release all prisoners from the labs." As the rebel forces hurried to evacuate, Juri went to the prison cells. Emperor Kalvor glared at her through the energy field. "You think you've won," he hissed. "Admiral Fax will crush you and your rebellion." "Perhaps," Juri replied, "but the galaxy now knows what you've done. Your empire is already falling." She turned to leave, but the emperor called after her. "Why? Why risk everything? You were safe as a servant." Juri looked back. "Because no one should live as a slave. Not humans, not Forel, not even Trescians who disagree with you." She left him there. The rebels had decided not to kill the emperor. He would face justice when the war ended. Outside, the sky filled with Trescian warships. Bombs fell on parts of the city where fighting was heaviest. Rebels rushed to board evacuation ships. "This way," Nez called to Juri. "Captain Jaewon's ship is waiting." They ran through secret tunnels beneath the palace. Twice they had to stop and hide from Trescian patrols. Finally, they reached a small landing pad where Jaewon's ship waited. As they boarded, explosions rocked the palace above them. Admiral Fax was taking back control. The ship lifted off, dodging enemy fire. Captain Jaewon piloted while Taiho worked the weapon systems. "We're being followed," Taiho shouted. 3 Treshan fighters chased them, weapons firing. The ship shook with each near hit. "Hold on," Jai-1 called, diving the ship toward the ground. She flew between tall city buildings, trying to lose their pursuers. 1 Treshan fighter crashed into a tower. The other 2 kept following. "We can't outrun them," Jai-1 said. "Prepare for emergency jump." "We're too close to the planet," Taiho warned. No choice. The ship's engine screamed as Jai-1 activated the jump drive. Stars blurred around them. The ship shuddered violently. Then suddenly, they were in open space, far from Tresha. Juri picked herself up from the floor. "Where are we?" "Rendezvous point," Jai-1 replied. "The human fleet is waiting here." Through the view screen, Juri saw 5 large human defense force ships. She had never seen such powerful vessels. On board the lead ship, General Park welcomed them. He was a tall, serious man with gray hair. "The daughter of Ambassador Kim," he said, nodding to Juri. "Your father would be proud." "Thank you, sir. But our work isn't finished." Indeed. The general led them to a command room where a holographic map showed the whole Treshan Empire. Red dots marked planets in rebellion. Blue dots showed Treshan strongholds. "Admiral Thax has regained control of the capital," he explained. "But rebellions continue on 7 planets now, and 3 neighboring star systems have joined our coalition after seeing the evidence of Treshan experiments." Juri studied the map. "Thax will try to crush each rebellion separately. We need to unite them." "How?" asked Nez. "Our communication systems were in the palace." Juri turned to Taiho. "The device you planted in their systems, can we still use it?" Taiho thought for a moment. "Yes. If we boost the signal from this ship, we can still access their network." "Then we can coordinate all rebel forces," Juri said. "And we know Treshan military protocols better than they expect." General Park looked impressed. "What's your plan?" Juri pointed to key points on the map. "Admiral Thax thinks like all Treshan commanders. He'll follow standard protocols. That makes him predictable." She began explaining her strategy. As she spoke, the others listened with growing hope. This was not the end of their fight. It was just the beginning of a new phase. And Juri, once a forgotten servant girl, was now leading the charge against an empire. For 2 weeks, Juri barely slept. She worked with rebel leaders from 5 different species, coordinating their efforts against the Treshan forces. Each species had different strengths. Each had suffered under Treshan rule. The Vorel were excellent spies. The Kaldar had powerful ships. The Durans were skilled fighters. The humans brought advanced technology. And the rebel Treshans knew the Empire's secrets. "We need to make this official," General Park said during a strategy meeting. "A formal alliance." "Who would lead such an alliance?" asked the Kaldar commander, her silver scales shimmering under the lights. All eyes turned to Juri. She shook her head. "I'm not a politician. I'm not even a soldier." "You're a symbol," General Park said. "The human servant who outsmarted an emperor. People across 5 systems know your story now." "They follow you," Nez added. "I've seen it." Juri thought of her parents. They were diplomats. They believed in peace through understanding. Perhaps she could honor their memory by bringing these species together. "Very well," she said. "I will help form this alliance. But we all lead together." They created a council with representatives from each species. Juri was chosen to speak for the humans. Together, they drafted an agreement, the Alliance of Free Worlds. As they worked, Admiral Thax continued his attacks. He recaptured 2 planets. He executed rebel leaders. He demanded that all citizens report any human they saw. "He fears you," Taiho told Juri as they watched reports from Treshan broadcasts. "Good," she replied. "Fear makes people careless." The alliance grew stronger each day. 3 more planets joined their cause. Ships from independent trading worlds brought supplies and weapons. 1 month after the palace uprising, Jurai led her first diplomatic mission. The Alliance needed the support of the Maikari, a powerful but neutral species. Their ships and technology could turn the tide of war. The Maikari ruler, a tall being with crystal-like skin, listened to Jurai's proposal. "Why should we join your fight?" she asked. "The Tresians have not attacked us." "Not yet," Jurai replied. "But look at their pattern. They conquer one species, use what they learn to attack the next. Your people may be strong, but the Tresians study each new species, finding weaknesses." She showed the evidence from the labs, the biological weapons, the experiments, the plans for future conquests. The Maikari ruler's crystal skin darkened with anger. "We will join your alliance," she decided. With the Maikari support, the alliance launched a bold plan. While Admiral Thax focused on recapturing rebel worlds, they would strike directly at Tresian supply lines. For 3 months, alliance ships attacked Tresian cargo vessels and fuel stations. They freed slave labor camps. They broadcast messages of hope across the empire. Jurai traveled between alliance worlds, strengthening their cooperation. She learned to speak to crowds, to inspire confidence, to build bridges between different cultures. "You've changed," Captain Jaiwan said to her one night as they looked at star maps. "Have I?" Jurai asked. "When I first met you, you were focused only on revenge. Now you talk about building a better future for all species." Jurai smiled. "I still want justice, but I've seen how all species suffer under tyrants, and how all can thrive in freedom." Her communicator beeped. A message from their spies on Tresia. Admiral Thax was planning something big, a final assault to crush the Alliance once and for all. Jurai called an emergency meeting of the Alliance Council. As leaders gathered, she felt the weight of responsibility. Millions of lives depended on their next decision. "Admiral Thax is gathering his fleet at Tresia," she announced. "He plans to attack our main base." "We should retreat," one leader suggested. "No," Jurai said firmly. "This is our chance. While his ships are gathered, we strike at Tresia itself." The council fell silent. Attack the Tresian homeworld? It seemed impossible. "I know their defenses," Jurai continued. "I know their weaknesses, and I know Admiral Thax will never expect us to be so bold." One by one, the council members nodded. The plan was daring, perhaps crazy, but they trusted Jurai, the human girl who had already accomplished the impossible. The Alliance fleet gathered in secret. 300 ships from 6 different species prepared for the attack on Tresia. Each captain knew their role in Jurai's plan. On the command ship, Jurai studied the holographic map of Tresia's defenses. Every detail mattered. She had spent years learning these systems as a servant. Now that knowledge would decide the fate of millions. "Are you sure about this?" General Park asked quietly. "Yes," Jurai replied. "Admiral Thax follows Tresian battle doctrine exactly. They always place their strongest forces in front. Their flanks are always weaker. And if he changes his tactics," Jurai smiled. "He won't. Tresians believe their way is perfect. That's their greatest weakness." The fleet jumped into Tresian space. Immediately, alarms blared across the planet. Admiral Thax's forces moved to defend the capital city. "Just as I predicted," Jurai said, watching enemy ships form a tight wall in front of their fleet. Now, the Alliance fleet split into 3 groups. The center group engaged Thax's forces directly. The other 2 swung wide around the sides, attacking where Tresian defenses were thinnest. Battles raged in space and on the planet's surface. Alliance ground forces, led by Nez, landed near key military bases. Captain Jaiwan commanded the right flank ships, breaking through Tresian lines. Admiral Thax sent frantic orders, trying to reposition his forces, but he was too slow. The Tresian command structure, built on rigid hierarchy, couldn't adapt quickly enough. On the command ship, Juri directed the battle alongside the Alliance Council. Her calm voice guided ships through enemy fire. Her strategic mind anticipated each Trescian move. "They're falling back to the capital city," General Park announced. "Their outer defenses are broken." "Now comes the hard part," Juri said. She turned to Tahoe, who operated the communication system. "Send the message." Across Trescia, on every communication channel, Juri's face appeared. She spoke directly to the Trescian people. "Citizens of Trescia, I am Juri Kim of the Alliance. Your military has lied to you. Your emperor performed terrible experiments on innocent beings. We do not fight against your people. We fight against those who rule through fear and cruelty." All across the planet, Trescians watched and listened. Many had already heard rumors about the emperor's crimes. Some had suffered under his rule. Others were simply tired of endless war. In 3 major cities, Trescian civilians began to protest. Military forces hesitated to fire on their own people. Admiral Thax, seeing his support crumbling, made a desperate move. He ordered all ships to attack the Alliance command vessel directly. "Incoming!" Tahoe shouted as 30 Trescian warships turned toward them. "Hold position," Juri ordered. This was the moment she had planned for. As Thax's ships charged forward, they left the palace defenses exposed. Captain Jaewon's forces swept in, capturing the palace in a swift strike. "The palace is ours," Jaewon reported, "and we've captured Admiral Thax." The battle continued for several more hours, but the outcome was now clear. Without leadership, Trescian forces began to surrender. By nightfall, the Alliance controlled the capital city. Admiral Thax stood in chains before the Alliance Council. "How?" he demanded, looking at Juri with hatred. "How did a human servant defeat the greatest empire in the galaxy?" "Because you never really saw me," Juri replied. "I served your meals. I cleaned your rooms. I listened to your plans, and you never once thought I could understand, let alone challenge you." Admiral Thax was taken away to join Emperor Kalvor in prison. Both would face trial for crimes against countless species. Juri walked through the palace halls that night, the same halls she had once cleaned as a servant girl. Now Alliance guards saluted as she passed. In the grand chamber where the Emperor once gave orders, the Alliance Council now met to discuss the future. Representatives from all member species, including reformed Trescians who had joined their cause, worked to build a new system. "The Trescian Empire has fallen," General Park announced formally, "thanks to the courage and wisdom of Juri Kim." Everyone cheered. But Juri felt no joy in that moment, only the heavy weight of what came next. Winning the war had been hard. Building a lasting peace would be even harder. 5 years passed. The Trescian Empire was gone. In its place stood the Galactic Confederation, a union of equal worlds. The palace that once housed emperors now served as the Confederation Council Hall. Juri, now 25, walked through the grand hallway. As the human ambassador to the Confederation, she wore a simple blue uniform rather than servant's clothes. Yet she never forgot her years of invisibility. People bowed as she passed. Some whispered her name with respect. Others watched with wide eyes. Everyone in the galaxy knew her story now. The servant girl who brought down an empire. Ambassador Kim, a tall Vorel called. It was Nez, now the head of Confederation security. "The trial concludes today. Will you attend?" Juri nodded. "I must." In the Great Justice Chamber, Emperor Kalvor and Admiral Thax faced their final judgment. For 4 years, the court had heard testimony from thousands of victims. Today, the judges would announce their decision. Juri sat quietly as the head judge spoke. "For crimes against all sentient beings, for torture, murder, and attempted genocide, you are sentenced to lifetime confinement on the prison moon of Darius." The former emperor looked old now. His blue skin had faded to gray. As guards led him away, his eyes found Juri in the crowd. "You," he hissed, "you did this. A mere human. Jewry met his gaze without fear. No, you did this to yourself. That evening, Jewry joined a special ceremony. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Tresia. Thousands gathered to remember those lost in the fight for freedom. On stage, she stood with other leaders of the rebellion. Captain Jaiwan, now an admiral, Teho, who led the Confederation's technology division, Nez, General Park, and Hay Newell, a young diplomat who had become Jewry's trusted advisor. Jewry stepped to the microphone. The crowd fell silent. 5 years ago, we won a war, she began. But our true victory is not in battles won. It is in the peace we build together. She spoke of those who died fighting, of species finding common ground, of the daily work of maintaining freedom. We must remember what happens when any group claims superiority over others, she continued. The Tresian Empire fell because it believed some lives mattered less than others. After the ceremony, Jewry walked alone in the memorial garden. Stones carved with thousands of names lined the paths. She found the stone bearing her parents' names and placed her hand on it. I hope I've made you proud, she whispered. A sound made her turn. A young Tresian stood watching her. He was perhaps 16, with lighter blue skin than most. You're her, he said. The human. I have a name, Jewry replied calmly. It's Jewry Kim. The young Tresian stepped closer. His face showed anger. My father died in the war. He was just a soldier following orders. I'm sorry for your loss, Jewry said sincerely. You humans act so noble now, the young Tresian continued, his voice rising. But you'll become the new oppressors. All powerful species do. It's only a matter of time. Several security officers started moving toward them, but Jewry waved them away. Perhaps you're right, she said quietly. Power can corrupt anyone, humans, Tresians, or any other species. She looked at the memorial stones, then back at the angry young face before her. But remember this, I was once a servant girl who couldn't fight or fly ships. I had no weapons. I had no army. I was invisible to those in power. She paused. Yet I toppled regimes that thought themselves immortal. Remember that before you or anyone builds another. The young Tresian stared at her, jeers turning to uncertainty. Jewry smiled gently. Come, walk with me. Tell me about your father. Every story deserves to be heard. Hesitantly, the young Tresian fell into step beside her. They walked among the memorial stones as the twin suns set over the former imperial city. Across the galaxy, billions of beings lived in newfound freedom. Ships traveled between worlds without fear. Children of different species played together in schools. The road ahead would not be easy. Old hatreds died slowly. New problems emerged daily. But Jewry faced them unbothered by doubts. She had changed history with patience, courage, and the power of being underestimated. Whatever challenges came, she would meet them the same way, one step at a time.